Welcome to Content Chaos with George and Call, a weekly podcast diving straight into meaningful conversations about navigating modern life. Using their weekly review framework, they explore personal growth, professional insights, and cultural observations. No fluff, just authentic dialogue that transforms chaos into clarity.
Hello.
Are we live?
We are live. We are live in episode 43.
43. Well, we had an epic weekend for New York and Jersey and New Jersey.
Yep.
So I know you don't want to acknowledge it, but yeah, it's kind of a big deal.
I'm not opposed to acknowledging it.
Yeah.
It just isn't as meaningful for me. But I'm happy. It's 53 years to the they deserve one for sure.
Yeah. It's just like a bonding thing with friends and family, and we had there was a gathering over the weekend, and just sharing all our memories over the years, and I don't know, it's like a good shot in the arm. Yeah, just like a good feeling. And
Yep.
Oh my gosh, the memes and the content, top notch. And just me going back to, because I filtered all through the lens of me being in high school and being a Knicks fan, and those 90s of those times of music, and yeah, it's very cool.
It's a big deal. It's comparable to, the Red Sox had their curse. They hadn't won the World Series from like 1908 until 2004 or something like that. And it's not quite as long, but it's that same feeling. Like you're always so close.
Yeah.
And, one of the, really original professional basketball teams, NBA teams with great stars over the years, and could never get past the Celtics. They did, but they didn't win the whole thing. And so, yeah, it's nothing but good. Nothing but good.
Yeah. All right. Well, on the good note, what went well for you this week?
Well, there were a few things I've been talking about this big initiative I have at work with this massive series of reports, and that's gone really well. So it's on track and getting a lot of attention. I'll come back to that later. So that's good. But that was just, it's one thing and it's ongoing. We had it's kind of a unique thing. I don't think most towns have a bulk pickup thing every year, where I was telling someone about it and they were like, "Oh my God, that's amazing. That's awesome." But there's one day a year where you can just, instead of having to go to a dump, like most people are familiar with, like having to take big things to a town dump, we just put it on our curb and the town comes and picks it up. So it starts on like Friday or Saturday when people put stuff out. And then these mysterious vans, and this year they weren't so creepy. Some years it's really like, it's like, like the Beverly Hillbillies are coming down and combing your neighborhood kind of thing. But this year it wasn't like that. But they go through the neighborhood and people just take, what you don't want other people take.
Disconnected for a moment.
And then ultimately, like now everything we put out is gone, but we got rid of some stuff, and that led also to I had 2 phases. It was like a cleanup weekend. I spent hours in the basement, getting stuff out of the basement, which was really a delayed. I'd spent a lot of time last year in the basement, and this was like the just about finishing that whole process. So that felt good to do some cleaning. And other than that, it was a weekend of, or it's a sort of a week of laughs. I had my last elementary school drop off today, which was I'll be dropping her off at middle school next year, but it was just like there's no more. That elementary school in just a couple of days will be out of our life, which it's been, for 13 years now. It's been a part of it. So, 3 kids going through it. Yesterday was not only the last soccer game for the youngest in this season, but it's the last one in a smaller format. So she goes up to from 9 players versus 9 players. Next season or in the fall, it'll be 11 versus 11 on a bigger pitch. And that, it's just an interesting, the end of the school year, the end of spring this year is bringing a lot of change to to things as well. And, the others we've got, our young man is, working. He secured his own job this summer and he's been onboarding and off with that. And we've got the other one up at Pfizer successfully navigating the realities of working for a Fortune 100 company, and just a lot on everybody's plate, but everybody's sort of moving along.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
If you notice my change of venue, the internet kept going in and out on the deck, so I just came inside.
Yeah, it might be okay because of the way this system records, so it might not, and nobody might have that experience, but
Okay.
we'll get it in edit.
Okay. It's so surreal that like we'll get it in edit. Yeah. It's just we're very blessed and lucky to have everyone thriving, and it is very emotional, like moving on from that school, is we've been so lucky.
Yeah.
But
It was
yeah.
a big part, like when we came here, just let's go check out the school, and driving by that school, it was like, oh, this is nice. This isn't, it looked good. Just optically, just,
Yeah.
the
I mean,
aesthetic.
that's a large part of why we even moved to this town. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
okay. So what went well for me? So you know, it was a great week. I'm just very psyched that summer's on its way. But the thing that I'll highlight is I had the opportunity to do a walking tour of New Brunswick with my Rutgers class yesterday. It was super cool. So first of all, this is one of those compressed classes that you take in the span of, I think, a month. I don't even mentally, I can't even, there's so much going on that I haven't even figured out like when it's over. But it's you basically, this class is a social context of education, and it's a lot of theory, and to me it's very interesting. But the part that's really great is meeting the people, because you meet all different kinds of people, and it's mostly online. So yesterday was a chance to actually meet people, face to face and interact, and I was just, it's just lovely. I appreciate having the flexibility of virtual learning, especially, we're all working professionals, but there's something to be said for having that physical community and meeting. It brings it alive. And maybe it's just because I'm Gen X old school, but, not like, I think it's the perfect balance of not compulsory, like forcing all the people go back in person, 5 days a week or 4 days a week that is just about control. It is unnecessary. It's, these big companies, they have their real estate holdings. They're trying to force people to, populate the spaces. But it's really not necessary. But anyway, that's a tangent. It was a great walking tour. And I got to, so the best part for me was I got to go to I'm going to look at my agenda here. It was the Abundant Life Family Worship Church in New Brunswick, a Black church that is non-denominational. I looked it up and tried to understand. It's non-denominational. So it was just like every kind of person you walk in for. So like the most welcoming environment imaginable. As the minute you start getting close, you're like walking down the street, people start saying, "Hey, welcome." And you come in here and they have like flags of all the different countries, like all throughout the church. And the thing that stood out to me the most, having been raised Irish Catholic and spent a good chunk of my life, stand up, sit down, kneel in very uncomfortable wooden pews.
Yeah.
They had comfortable seats. They had very comfortable seats. And I was like, that was a revelation to me. Like you don't have to suffer to be in this kind of, worshiping community. And like the media part of it was incredible. So they had like, first of all, the music, they had a full piece band. I would say there's probably like 5 people on the right, like the string section, and then on the left, the full, like another, I don't know what the number is, but it was like a full band that was really good. And they
Wow.
were playing music that was like, it was very driving and energetic, but it reminded me of like 90s rock ballads. And it was just not what I would have expected. Again, the stereotypes of culture, like you think you're going to a black church and it's going to be Baptist revival, Whoopi Goldberg, what was that, Sister Act? No, it's 2026. And, but there was just so much going on, and it was so different from anything I'd ever experienced in my upbringing. So it's just very cool to get to do that. And I just felt very comfortable. And then after the service, we got to go down and meet the pastor and see the community center and meet all different kinds of people. And yeah, it was awesome. It was really cool. And then after we did the church service, we did a tour of the different murals in New Brunswick, and there's, so much stories to all of it. We did a tour of the Rutgers campus, and it's called the Rutgers Scarlet and Black Tour because the university was built by slaves, as most historical buildings and institutions were, and they kind of detailed all of it. The first president of Rutgers owned Sojourner Truth. Like she was enslaved. If you've heard of Sojourner Truth, she's a black feminist and very well-known leader, and I got to read some of her stuff in my class, but she was actually owned by the president of Rutgers. And then we went to the Zimmerly Art Museum. The Rutgers Art Museum's excellent. So I've been wanting to go see the Andy Warhol exhibit, and we went to see another exhibit. And it was an awesome day, and I left feeling like I learned a lot and was energized by it, and made it back in time for tennis. It was awesome.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah.
That's great. That's great.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So shifting gears into what could be better.
What could be better? Yeah.
Yep. So I mentioned getting back to getting attention, and sort of along those lines, one of the things that in this last week that I noticed falling in the what could be better is some direct experience as I put these, reports out with the fact that, we've become this, like, we talk about, like, there's a lot of talk about the attention economy, right? So there's that it is what it is. Like, it's about getting attention, but what I experienced was how there's so many people that just engage at to even say that they only engage with a soundbite is would be generous. It would be generous. So I had 2 experiences this week that just were really interesting to me. The first one you'll like for another reason, but so I had put out one of the original pieces. The second piece, I went with a provocative theme. I'm talking about market opportunities, I view as market windows. Some are open, some are closed. So I wrote a thing on 6 categories, 6 windows that are closing. So that got some attention. And this one podcaster got, picked up on it in the industry, like nobody that anybody here would know other than if you were in my world. But he's sort of aspires to be a little bit of a shock jock kind of personality. His co-host was out. So he had 2 women with him that are from the industry who are it's like for the month that the co-host is out, they're 2 people that are plugging in.
It's like Scott-free August.
Yeah, I'm sure that's where they copy a lot of stuff, as we all do. So they gave I would say half of their podcast, they talked about this report. And what was really interesting was, to me, I had to listen to it. I never listened to their stuff, rarely, just because of the format. And I don't like the snark for being snarky thing.
Yeah.
But they put half of their show toward my report. So I was like, all right, I got to hear what they have to say. And the 2 co-hosts went first, and it was clear that he had asked them to find, to punch holes in it, and they couldn't punch any holes in it. They were very much supportive of it. Then he goes, and it became very clear to me right up front, he did not even read this thing.
Yeah.
He saw a headline, and he looked at the the factors that I'm using to grade the windows, I have 4 standard things I'm not going to get into. That's not the point. But he kept trying to do this like history lesson, and the 2 women clearly had read the report.
Right.
And as he's going through it, he doesn't like, I'm thinking in my head, like, that's not what the report was about.
Yeah.
And they would correct him. It was like they were channeling me because they read it. And I was just so pleased with that. But it's really just, he's very, very much an example of most people they're just looking at what's in their feed and they make a decision as to what it is or what it isn't and craft an opinion. And he couldn't have been further away. He was arguing things as if I said like I didn't say something when it's actually his point was exactly what I said. Like
Yeah.
you're upset about nothing here.
Right.
So that was one thing. And then I had a LinkedIn commenter who did the same thing, and I broke one of my rules. I actually engaged with them, but it was fine. But he was this another report that was about job boards and how, not that job boards are dead, but the model is dying and how they need to
Yeah.
shift, and that they are shifting, and only the ones that shift will survive. Bob, so he just saw that and immediately started arguing, they've been saying this since 2010, yet blah, blah, blah. And I said, well, actually, that's a good point. And here's what I'm saying. And he got to one point, he kept making points that are in the report. And
Yeah.
I was just having fun with him in a kind way. I was saying, I think if you read the report, you'll actually find that there's even a lot more data about what you're saying here. But again, just this, I think it's a real problem today. With everything people have been, I'd say behavior has shifted because of, social media, because of the volume of content that's coming at everyone, to where they're not, it's part of critical thinking, right? Like you actually have to think, you actually have to
Engage on the substance.
Yeah.
Engage on the substance.
Yeah.
Read the actual, go consider the source. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was just in my own personal travel. Like this past week, it was like that. It's a bigger picture thing. Everything's fine. It's all good. People engaging with it, wanting to argue about it. That's good for me. It calls attention to it. The other thing that I'll point out, higher level, just overnight or between yesterday and today, it came out that the U.S. government has limited the use of Anthropic's. Anthropic put out 2 new models, Fable and something else, that are really powerful. And the government has said you have to be a U.S. citizen in order to use it. So immediately, what Anthropic had to do was, because they can't really manage that, so they had to shut down those new models that they had rolled out last week, and they're debating it. But what's now happened is the rest of the world is realizing that sovereignty over your AI models is important, and that they can't count on things in the US being available, and they're building businesses and things on these models. So it's not that a new model released last week that was then shut off within a week is causing mayhem, but what is now I think it opens the door for China to move in, and even if they don't move in, now the companies that we have that have been developing these models are now, looked at differently by the rest of the world. So the revenue that they would receive from Europe or anywhere in the world, they're going to be looking at developing their own, because they realize they can't count on another country remaining open to them. So I think it may have, I think the intent was, there's these models are really powerful. I think one of them is called Mythos, and it's the one that is, if it's used improperly, it could like hack systems all on its own. And they put safeguards around it. But so I get why you would want to limit access around that. But I think bull in a china shop, like not really, this was more about limiting Anthropic. And I think we're going to find out, what that means to the world now. And I don't think it's going to be advantageous for US AI, US based AI companies.
So I'm trying to understand all the geopolitical implications of all of this. And there's already a lot of very smart people in Europe and obviously outside of the United States, like working on all of this stuff already. I'm curious about, like, I've always thought this with Anthropic, could they just leave, the United States and like reincorporate elsewhere?
Yeah, I had the same thought. I don't know what would be involved in that, or could they just, open a European business,
Yeah.
incorporate it there?
I mean,
I don't know. I don't know the implications. I think they probably would have to move, but then, because if they tried to coexist, I'm sure that wouldn't bode well with the US, who would then just put more limitations on them in the
yeah.
US. So,
And they
um,
wouldn't have the federal money and, they could be blacklisted for US corporations, blah, 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 blah. But yeah, I have this kind of zoomed out theory and it's based on nothing. It's just pure intuition, like that it could, again, all of this stuff is speculation and a lot of it is also marketing hype. But I in the end, see it. If you read and look very closely at the numbers, like the amount of growth that is required for these to become sustainable businesses it doesn't work mathematically. There's a journalist named
right.
Ed Zitron who like writes about this, and I'm just like, I think he's right. And it just feels like ultimately it'll end up. I think ChatGPT is just cooked. I really do. And again, I don't have a lot of backup on that, but I just intuitively feel it. And Claude, like I just kind of see it ending up being just Gemini, Google, and Apple. Apple's like kind of staying out of the fray because they don't want to spend all the money. Like let the fools rush in. But anyway, I wish I understood this more. But yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah. No, I mean everything's happening faster and more in a more extreme fashion than any other tech wave we've had. And
Yeah.
simply like it's not the first. Every market, think about the internet bubble, and you think about it's they pump a lot of money into a large number of companies, and then a few winners emerge,
Yeah.
and the rest get acquired or dissolve or become something different.
Yeah.
But we've never, not at this scale, we've never had this amount of money raised or the value of these companies be what it is. And we've never had the entire economy propped up on, like all of this data center stuff and all of this, like
Yeah.
the implications are huge. And so, yeah, to your point, it's hard to see a world where you still have these companies as they are now
Yeah.
coexisting. They're racing to go public. Like, Anthropic was on track to be the first one to go. I don't know what this is going to do to their going
Yeah.
public, but
It could be that Anthropic is Napster and LimeWire and ChatGPT's LimeWire. It could be. I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. Whatever. It's
okay.
yeah.
Well, what could have gone better on your side, or
Mm,
what could be better?
Two main things. One is just me working my endless quest for better self-regulation, and I had gotten into this like really extreme coffee, like drinking way too much coffee, and I noticed it and have been kind of dialing myself back because I take a medication for ADHD, which I'm also like, am I just falling for the whole hype machine of, they can sell me a medication? But I learned this week that one of the side effects of the medication is headaches. And I think I was self medicating with all the coffee. So, you know, there's that's the ADHD. And then also just the perimenopause. I've been having different experiences with medical practitioners that are less
Oh
than
yeah.
great. And, it shouldn't, like right now, kind of, I think the science is behind my personal experience. Like in another couple years, we'll probably have answers to some of this stuff. And right now, I feel like I'm Sherlock Holmes, like self-treating myself. And then part of me is like, why am I even taking these things? So it's a lot of confusion, and it definitely could be better.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
It's so messed up how this was just not dealt with for,
yeah,
I mean, generations.
yeah. Let's not research women's health at all because they're
Right.
only half of humanity. So.
Right. Right.
But okay, so that's what could be better. And then So what did you learn this week?
I'll be quick on the what I learned. I think for all the AI talk we just had, I continue to just I've been now digging into how to use projects in Claude because I'm learning, like everybody is learning, how to manage against tokens and costs and
Hmm.
image limits and file limits. And, they provide some framework for that. But I think, a lot of us just, and I just rushed in and started really, working with the tool itself. And now I'm learning how to organize it and be more efficient in that while I'm out talking at an enterprise level about that at a much bigger scale. So, but for me, that's what I'm learning right now is how to. I've been cranking out so much work. Like I could never have done this series the way I've done it in the last month, the last couple of weeks, really, without this tool being my research assistant and my editor a little bit, like my helper and my data analyst. And now I'm just, you know, learning how to get better and even more efficient with it. So
Cool.
that's me. How about you?
I will also be brief. I've just been learning so much in my course, but so I'm going to go with something very compact and specific, which was a post I saw from Harlan Cohen. He is a fellow college coach, so I love his content, and he posted about what something people who know higher ed, this thing called the enrollment cliff. So like the demand for students, there are fewer students to go around, just given demographics and population and stuff like that right now. So the number of universities has built up to the point where it's like not sustainable you literally just don't have the people anymore. And Syracuse leadership, I don't know, who's the president of Syracuse, like posted a thing about like they're not seeing the demand that, they have always had. You might want to check your pricing, dude. Syracuse is like obscene. It's obscene. It's obscene.
Yeah.
And it's, with all due respect to my good friends who went to Syracuse, School of Newhouse, School of whatever, it's talk about sticker shock. It's crazy. So that's coming. And I was just pretty shocked to see the apparatus of university publicly stating like, buckle up, but that also means cost cutting, people are getting fired, stuff like that, and higher ed. So
Wow.
yeah. Yep. And
Yeah.
what about and you went, all right,
Yeah.
cool. Well, we went a little long this week, but
We'll
it's
see
okay.
what happens in edit. We may
We'll see
be.
what happens in the edit. All right, cool. Love you,
All
honey.
right.
Thank you.
Thanks. Thanks, everyone.